Hey everyone, this is Adam Elenbaas from Nightlight Astrology. Happy Monday, everybody. Today we're going to take a look at the major astrological transits for the week ahead. There are several that we're going to be looking at. Of course, Mercury is also turning retrograde today. We'll refresh a little bit on that transit as well. So that is our agenda for today. Before we get into it, as always, remember to like and subscribe. It helps our channel grow so much. If you listen regularly but are not yet subscribed, it's free to do so. And when you do it, it really does help. So thank you to everyone also who has been subscribing lately. We've almost doubled our monthly average. That's incredible. You can find transcripts of any of these daily talks on the website, which is nightlightastrology.com. When you go over there, remember that we are now in the midst of our 11th annual Kickstarter campaign. I can't believe it's been 11 years of doing this. But here we go. You'll see the 2025 Kickstarter link there at the top. When you click on it, you can also find the link in the comments section of this video or in the description of this video. You'll be taken over to the Kickstarter, and you'll see that we have a variety of rewards that are available when you donate. So there are so many ways that you can support the channel if you're not able to provide a donation. Obviously, prayer, good vibes, good energy, good luck, whatever. We appreciate all of it. If you are able to donate, we really do appreciate it. Our goal this year is to get to 1,937 backers by January 1st. That would be one backer better than we did last year. At the end of today's video, you will find an explanation of the different rewards we offer, including all of the classes that are on sale, 50 up to 75% off when you get certain class bundles. All of our major offerings for the year ahead are available. We also have some readings, year ahead horoscope readings, all sorts of really great stuff to try and say, a big thank you when you contribute. So on that note, every day during Kickstarter season, I like to tell you something that I think is valuable about the channel that may contribute to people supporting the channel. So today I wanted to talk about devotion. When I was involved, the thing that really got me into bhakti yoga, when I had taken initiation and I was going by acyuta-bhava, the thing that was so compelling to me about bhakti yoga was that it was the yoga of devotion. And I have always considered devotion to the different things that I've practiced, whether it's been, creative writing or astrology or yoga or my wife and kids. I consider myself someone to be a very devoted person. And so I was digging into the etymology of this word recently because we did a talk, I think it was on Venus-Saturn last week, and I was talking about devotion as a word that implies something like awe, reverence, care, loyalty, or even the sense of there being a sacred promise or vow. And so when you support this channel, one thing I think you can know is going into the content every day that is worth supporting is a devotional attitude about astrology itself. To me, when I serve astrology, serve the gods, serve the cosmos, serve the planets, serve the oracle, whatever we want to call it, it is something that provides back for me in ways that are far beyond what I can give to it. It provides me with a sense of faith and trust in the nature of experience and of life and the cosmos itself, especially during hard times when I just don't understand what's going on. Astrology makes things okay somehow in a way that is pretty amazing, that the meaning and symbolism behind all movements and stages of life help me to feel that I am still on sacred ground. It has not gone anywhere. I'm okay. I will be okay. My soul is eternal. Life is okay. I can't put a price tag on that. And so because astrology has always given me that and continues to give me that, I feel at a very deep level a sense of loyalty, a deep promise that I have to astrology and to the planets and to this language to serve and to use it in a way that can maybe give other people some of the same benefits spiritually. So when you're watching this channel and you decide to support the channel that every single day you're getting content from someone who has a very deep devotional connection to the craft. And I think that is that's my favorite part about my own relationship with astrology. So anyway, we'll leave it there and we will go on now to our content for the day and take a look at the astrology of the week ahead. And thank you so much to everyone who's already pitched in to support the Kickstarter. Again, you can find the link in the comment section, the description of the video, or over on the website. Okay, let's take a look at the real-time clock. So here we can see today that the major event of the day, we've got the big circle. Okay, here we go. There's Mercury. You see the little S it's actually kind of being blocked out a little bit there. let's see, here we go. You can see the little S right by Mercury showing us that Mercury has stationed, is not moving. Now, if we kind of just go hour by hour, we're going to see that Mercury's retrograde begins as it turns red there. And that the retrogradation will, technically we see it starting to move backward by early Wednesday morning. So the station to turn retrograde is happening between now and Wednesday, with today being the day in which most people will really start to feel and notice the effect. So astrology of November 25th to December 1st begins as today on November 25th, as Mercury is stationing to turn retrograde in Sagittarius. And the full turn of that retrograde is really between now and Wednesday because of how slowly Mercury gradually starts to move backward. So that's a major event happening this week that we will talk about today. The next one on our list to talk about, and we will be looking at in depth as the week goes on, is the connection between Mars and the Sun. So the Sun is trining Mars, and anytime the Sun is about to make a trine or has just made a trine with one of the superior planets, those are slower than the Sun, meaning Mars, Jupiter, or Saturn in the traditional Chaldean order. Anytime that whole sign trine or degree-based trine is happening, right around then is when the planet will change motion. So in this case, this is the moment at which Mars is about to change directions, and that happens just after the trine. The trine becomes a very important part then of the process of Mars turning retrograde. The two events are connected, and so we're going to analyze that this week. I have a whole talk prepared on the divine lessons of Mars retrograde in Leo, as well as some tips on how to track superior planetary cycles so you can notice when these are going retrograde yourself in the future through an easy little trick. So some fun things that we'll be looking at for sure around this one as the Sun trines Mars. We'll also talk about that today. And then the last transit we're going to talk about today is happening on December 1st. Now, if we go forward all the way to the time of the new moon in Sagittarius, that is taking place early Sunday morning, so late Saturday night into Sunday morning, the new moon in Sagittarius at the very end of the week. That new moon in Sagittarius is also a very important new moon because the new moon cycle is reflecting this big T-square in the mutable signs that's taking place. Jupiter-Saturn square, Mercury's retrograde engaging with the square all over again, and the moon cycle itself really reflecting the importance of this T-square. So we will talk about that today as well. And then as the week goes on, we'll deal with these things in greater depth and detail. I think one of the things we're going to be spending a lot of time on this week will be the Sun's trine to Mars and the upcoming Mars retrograde in Leo, just doing more work to sort of prepare ourselves in our consciousness for that event, which is one of the bigger events. Anytime Mars goes retrograde, pretty powerful, especially since this Mars retrograde engages with the opposition to Pluto in multiple times and already has once. So now, let's go back and let's start off by talking about Mercury's retrograde in Sagittarius, which is really happening here at the beginning of the week. A few of the things that I would point out with Mercury's retrograde in Sagittarius is that you have this kind of contradictory quality when Mercury is in one of Jupiter's signs or Jupiter is in one of Mercury's signs. And remember, right now we have both Jupiter in Gemini, Mercury in Sagittarius. They are in mutual reception by detriment and opposition. This Mercury retrograde implies that some things will be taken apart and put back together, or that for something coherent to be built on the level of understanding or thought or belief, on the level of organization or some kind of internal structure, like maybe within a business or a company or something, that there's this meaningful process of analysis or deconstruction followed by revision and rebuilding or reconstituting that's taking place. This is, by the way, very similar to the overall idea of what Jupiter-Saturn dynamics are about in their conjunction square opposition cycle. So Jupiter-Saturn dynamics come about when there is need for reform or revision or major shifts in structures of institutions, structures of belief, shifts in paradigm. And those meaningful changes often coincide with changes in the political or governmental landscape and the institutions related to them. We're seeing that right now, of course, in some really big ways here in the United States. But it's not just limited to government. For our personal lives, the Jupiter-Saturn squares have a lot to do with just changes of mind and mentality, changes of philosophy and approach, changes in our understanding of something. And so as that's happening, it's an exciting time where we get to find the limits of existing systems and then revise or expand them, or change them altogether, swap one out for another. What I like about this Mercury retrograde is that in Sagittarius, we're looking at things like certainty and uncertainty. Sagittarius is often a sign that thrives on the confidence of being invested in something. I believe this. This is what I really feel strongly about. Convictions are a part of the Sagittarian ethos. Now, you could also say that when Mercury's in Sagittarius and retrograde, that we have to deal with uncertainty, because Mercury is a planet that's naturally more deconstructive, analytical, riddling, paradoxical. Sometimes it almost feels like contradictory and tends to be a little bit more deconstructive. That doesn't mean that Mercury doesn't believe anything. It means that it's a little Socratic. If you think about Socrates as undoing the certainty of the citizens of Athens by going around and questioning them, we have a Mercury retrograde here that might be calling into question various ideas, forms, certainties, beliefs, structures, systems. But remember, Jupiter in Gemini is essentially doing the same thing. This is why there's this interesting mutual reception between the two, where a deconstructive process can actually be very progressive and proactive. I mean, some of the best things we can ever do for the sake of growing our certainty, growing our convictions, growing some kind of solidness around us in the way we live our lives or conduct business or maintain our relationships, is to go through a process of doubt, questioning, kind of deconstruction and analysis. It is as though as soon as I lack a certain kind of like a certainty that I've had in the past, that is often exactly the time at which relationships start to grow and become more solid. When, for example, in my marriage, I would say some of the best moments ever between my wife and I would be those times where one of us or both of us look and say, you know what, maybe I was wrong. Right? Isn't it true? You go, you know what, maybe I'm not so sure about that anymore, and maybe you've been right. Our ability to be influenced and persuaded, changed, led, guided, and open to the suggestion of other people in our lives, the good ones, right? The people that we care about, is really important, because we cannot grow without the inflections upon our own consciousness and mentality that other people provide us with. And so this could be a time, this Mercury retrograde, of meaningful dialogue where we say, okay, you know what? I'm going to stop and consider something. This is just personally, whenever I'm at a point where I look and I perceive someone to have a very different way of thinking about something that I do, and maybe it makes me angry. One of the things that I have found most beneficial, if I can tap into it, if I'm graced with enough patience and humility to just temporarily step out of my self-righteous anger or certainty, right? And just go like, let me just consider. The benefit of doing that in my life anyway has been that even if I don't end up agreeing with the other person that's somehow feels like they're in some kind of state of opposition to my own way of thinking or doing something, that when I open myself up to step into their perspective and really try to understand it, at the very least, even if I still don't agree, I have grown some appreciation for them, and I have developed maybe some compassion or empathy for how they may have arrived at that idea. Not to be condescending, but just like, okay, I can see how someone would get there. And all that does is it allows for dialogue to continue happening, and for like, well, look, if I open myself that way to my wife, for example, I find that 9 times out of 10, she will open herself to me. And then before you know it, there's more common ground, and there's more of a place of resolution or compromise or mediation of what appeared to be irreconcilable opposites than there were previously. This is Mercury retrograde in Sagittarius. We have an opportunity right now to let go of some of the way in which our conviction or our certainty is blocks us from a kind of open-minded exchange that could be very beneficial for us, which does not have to negate or cancel out you still feeling exactly the same way that you do about things. Softening the way you hold a stance is just as valid, is just as good a benefit of a Mercury retrograde in Sagittarius as somehow completely changing it, in other words. So keep these things in mind, that Mercury's retrograde in Sagittarius can also just fill us with a different kind of faith, trust, and hope that is born out of opening ourselves up to some level of temporary uncertainty, or of opening ourselves up to be persuaded or influenced by something that we were maybe formerly closed down to. The other thing that can happen is that we can just go through a process of critical reflection and revision upon these structures, systems that are governing our lives in different areas of our lives. That process is ongoing. It will be the process that takes us through the end of the year here. So it's not something that happens all at once, but just notice how almost like a paradigm is shifting. Now, I can identify where that's shifting in my own life right now. I won't go into it, but I think it's amazing because I track with astrology and I pay attention to how am I just starting to think about and do things very differently from a kind of strategic or organizational or mental, intellectual standpoint. I'll just say that a lot of the way that I have been thinking about things like my health, my self-care, the way that I exercise, things like that, I've been continuing to study and learn and broaden my understanding of the different facets of my routine. And it has really been shifting some things that are exciting for me, even though for someone on the surface, they might look like just small nuances. So pay attention to those things, because even just small nuance changes to things that you do all the time that are starting to make kind of a big difference, that can be really significant. And you're not missing anything when you track the astrology in that way. All right. Anyway, as the week unfolds, we get into this Sun trine to Mars. Let's take a look at that on the screen again. So here we have it, Sun trining Mars. All right. Okay, so here we go. Sun trining Mars, that is taking place on Wednesday. But if we were to back this up just a couple of days, I want you to notice that here on Monday, we've got the engagement within 3 degrees happening. And then when we go all the way to Saturday, the sun is finally separating from that 3-degree range. So between now and Saturday, the engagement is full on, which means you could be really noticing these things throughout the entire week. Because of the nature of a long, slow trine, that's why we're going to spend a couple of days talking about this one. And I've got this I'm very excited about one of the talks that I created on some of the kind of spiritual lessons of Mars retrograde in Leo. So we'll be looking at that. Anyway, this trine is really important because it signals, watch, if I just keep going after the trine departs, then see how Mars stations, and now Mars is retrograde. And you can see that by December 7th, December 8th. So fascinating that the sun connects with Mars and then slowly after Mars stations and turns retrograde. This is interesting because there's reception between these planets and a trine. What does that mean? It means that Mars is in the sun's sign and then connecting with its host, the sun, in a harmonious trine, which is of the nature of Jupiter. So we have a very nice form of support taking place between Mars and the sun this week. And that is going to be the subject of a big part of this week's astrology, like I just said. So anyway, some of the things to think about, though, is when the sun and Mars get together in fire signs, there is a strong like executive tendency in the air. By executive, we mean like the power to execute, to do something decisive, to do something strong, to do something bold, to act, and to act with a certain degree of confidence and moxie. Fire likes to say something like, I will mold the world through the shaping influence and power of my will. That's fire, right? And fire can be consumptive too. We can burn kind of hot, and we have to be very mindful of what's fueling us in a week like this, right? Because the energy can kind of step up. And if you're running on fumes, if you're not taking care of yourself and making sure that you have good energy running through your physical being, the fire can burn you out. Especially Mars and the Sun, which get very willful and very strong in their expression. And if that's coming through you and you're depleted or run down, it can really burn you out. We'll talk more about that as well. The combination of these planets, though, is like the ruler and the army. And I know maybe that's a gross image for some people. I get it, but think about it like, you have your chess pieces on the board. There's another analogy, right? Or a metaphor, or whatever. And you are the commander of the pieces. And you're going to use the pieces strategically to win the game. This is Mars, right? Mars likes to win. Mars likes to be effective. Mars likes to succeed through enactment of will. In Leo, there might be a certain sense of pride or dignity or ego on the line. With Sagittarius, there could be very strong convictions at play. But you get the idea of like a strong, confident mobilization of energy, resources, willpower to try to get something done or accomplished or to be effectively achieving something. And alongside of that can come things like ego, arrogance, bullying, domineering, steamrolling, bulldozing, whatever we want to call it. So we have to be a little bit aware of that shadow tendency of these fiery planets connecting in a trine. But the nice thing about a trine is that if you just need a burst of energy to support you and to help you get things done, you will find that these planets connect sort of seamlessly to give you like a giddy up. There's a feeling of, yeah, it's just like a moxie with the fire that comes through and it says like, you've got this, I've got this, I can do this. It's great for building a sense of confidence and what often comes with that confidence with the sign of Leo is generosity of spirit. We're going to talk a lot about that when I do another video on the spiritual values or lessons that Mars retrograde and Leo may provide us, because one of the great things that it provides us with is a generosity of spirit. My success is not just mine. When I succeed, this is Mars and Leo speaking, it is important that there be a way in which that channels and funnels out to other people succeeding. Otherwise, what happens is I'll become like the great Mars and Leo image is Smaug from The Hobbit. If you remember that dragon that sits on the hoard of gold. And how did he come to possess that gold? He came in, the dragons come in where there is great greed growing and great resources growing, but being greedily hoarded. And that was what was happening with the dwarf king in The Hobbit, right? He was sort of getting wealthier and wealthier, and they had more and more, gold and jewels being mined and built up. And then he was becoming greedier and more possessive of it. And what comes in psychically is the dragon. The dragon comes and sits on the hoard and guards it. Well, think about kings that hoard power, that don't want to give it up. They become like dragons. That can be very Mars and Leo. So when we see the sun trine to Mars, the shadow is really the power of the dragon, the dark kind of dragon. There's many beautiful dragon imagery. There's a lot of beautiful dragons too. Don't get me wrong. I don't think dragons are always dark. But in this case, we have to be aware of that power. If it's not distributed, if it's not shared. And remember, one of the things that the dwarfs have to overcome in the story of The Hobbit is the inability to share their wealth with the people who have just, the lakeside people who've just been ravaged by the dragon, right? So there's a need to, with great power comes great responsibility. And the responsibility is to be generous with the power accumulated. This is a huge Mars-Sun lesson. The power accumulated can be part of the Mars-Sun trine. The impetus to figure out a way of sharing, distributing, making sure that success is not hoarded, but is put into building the success of others. Wow, that's a hard thing to do. I personally feel like all human beings struggle when we come into possession of great things because it's exciting. It's me, really me. I'm doing something great. I'm getting something great. And it's so easy to be seduced in those moments to then want to defend and hoard and keep and hold. Like the Four of Pentacles in the Rider-Waite Tarot, it's a little prince sitting on the throne, like, kind of holding on to his coins. And like, we're going to have to watch out for that this week, because even though this connection is very empowering on a level, Again, this is a superior square, a superior trine from Mars and Leo to the sun, to its host. So the idea here is that Mars, if the military co-opts the king, so to speak, then the king, who has the power of magnanimous rulership, can get co-opted by the martial tendency. And that's what we have to be careful of in a trine like this, even though for many people it will be experienced very positively. So more on that as the week unfolds. Now, we go to the new moon in Sagittarius. And the new moon in Sagittarius happens on, Sunday. We get it back here. We'll take a look. All right, here it is. New moon in Sagittarius. And this is happening in the bound of Jupiter, if I'm not mistaken. Sometimes the ticker is a little bit off. Let me just double check that. Yeah. So we've got, this is fascinating. So I hadn't looked at the bound ruler before I drew up today's talk. So excuse me for just doing this on the fly, but you can see here, actually, let me take away the banner so you can see at the bottom. So you'll see there that the new moon is taking place in the bound of Jupiter and, of course, the domicile of Jupiter. I think that's really fascinating because, of course, this cycle, this lunar cycle hosted by Jupiter, while Mercury is retrograde in Jupiter's sign, is opposed to Jupiter, who is in turn retrograding and in Mercury's sign. So again, we have that mutual reception by detriment and opposition taking place. And the new moon is really participating in that symbolism as these planets are also getting into the square with Saturn. Now, I'm going to break this down, the lunar cycle itself, in greater depth toward the end of the week. So we will be returning to this, but I'll say a few things now because it's important that we start thinking about these things right away. The square to Saturn that is taking place in the midst of this, that Jupiter-Saturn dynamic, is at the heart of the next moon cycle. Jupiter-Saturn cycles throughout the ages, right, have been associated with the kind of regular rhythmic way in which the human institutions and organizations and structures, which are always trying to approximate an archetypal ideal, will always fall short. Why? Because we're in the realm of impermanence and change and fluctuation. Ancient mystics saw this world as a kind of like reflection of like the moon, right? The moon was the ruler of this material world, and the moon itself is a reflective medium. So the world is a place where the eternal forms and eternal souls and eternal being is playing out through fluctuation of form and transformation of circumstance that's constantly unfolding. In that way, material reality is like the ripples and changes and reflections on the surface of water. Really fascinating. And of course, so many different traditions have talked about this, Maya, samsara, etc. It doesn't mean that we have to look at it as all false and fake and phony and bad or anything like that. But one thing that becomes really important is if we get frustrated with the fact that this world cannot maintain the standard of perfection that the archetypes provide us with, and we can sense and feel and kind of see the archetypes in our mind's eye. You can see the perfect triangle if you sort of close your eyes and imagine it. The world will always, in some ways, deviate or fall short of that perfect standard. And so the ongoing attempts to approximate something ideal in the biggest systematic forms that are in our lives or in the social realm are depicted by the Jupiter-Saturn cycles. Well, the reason for that is that Jupiter, Zeus, is the cosmocrat, the planet that is emblematic of the idea of the cosmos itself, like a well-arranged whole. Saturn, as the dimmest and most distant planet, sitting on the edge of the visible and the invisible, stands as a kind of gatekeeper between the archetypal and the material. And so when Saturn inflects itself on Jupiter, it's like showing Jupiter in a mirror the limitations that it faces in the mortal realm, as well as inflecting upon it some sense of the archetypal beyond. Saturn in that way is like this death as well as of structures and forms inflecting on Jupiter, but also this kind of, it provides Jupiter with a sense of the numinous possibilities beyond what it currently is. And so that interaction cyclically is so important to our lives. And I highly recommend going back and tracking. Let's just do this really quick for fun. So if you want, I mean, you don't even have to track the houses. Like if you want, you can track the houses. We're talking about Jupiter and Saturn in Pisces and Gemini, but let's just take out and look at their cycle. So the cycle of the two planets coming together, their conjunction, which is like the seeding point of the new cycle, was about the winter solstice of 2020. So what I want you to think about is what kinds of systematic changes, structures, the seeding of some new way of thinking or new way of doing something that was being born around this time in your life. You could look at the whole sign house of Aquarius, or just think broadly speaking, what were the most substantive structures of mind, life, relationship, work that were changing, that were starting to show signs of something new? Now we bring it up to the current moment, and they're in a square with one another, which means they are in another kind of inflection moment of change, right? So it's like, okay, let's look at, we can see them coming together. This was, this is December of 2024 here. Let me just get it up. Right, there we go. So you can see them together now, but if we go back, they were also present. You can track them shifting around August. That's funny because I can track these things in several different ways. For example, it was in August that we began developing and preparing the donation-based reading clinic. And then here in December, we've just launched it, right? So, and that has been a huge structural change on a number of levels, and in the business and the company and the website and so forth. We had to put a lot of things in place to be able to support that. So you can see, and it also carries over in different elements of my life, as I was saying earlier, some of the ways in which I've been learning and deepening my understanding of health, wellness, things like that have been really like paradigmatic changes for me that have been really cool. Anyway, I won't bore you with that. But if you go back in time, you can actually track out the entirety of the last cycle. So if you want to go through the previous conjunction, look at this. Right here we have, So here's the conjunction of Jupiter and Saturn in Taurus. This is about 2000, June of 2000. And then you can track out the development of that story as the timeline progresses. And here's like another connection that they had in 2006 in a square. And then you can track out their opposition. This is about 2010 in an opposition. And then you can track out the last quarter square taking place in about 2016. All right. And then we get to 2020 and we have the next connection. Tracking those moments, if you have the patience to do it, and looking at their conjunction, squares, opposition, conjunction around the wheel throughout your life, again, add in the whole sign houses if you want, but if you do that work, you will find that they very concisely and beautifully describe major shifts of consciousness, philosophy, form, and structure in our life. I can track out that previous Jupiter-Saturn cycle for the arc of the development of my career path and the philosophical changes in my life that were gradually leading me to astrology. I can track them out precisely under each of those dynamics. Isn't that fascinating? So trust me when I say that it is well worth doing if you have the time for it and the energy to do it. Maybe what I'll do later this week is I'll flesh out that process a little bit more in the video that we do on the new moon. But the point of this is just to say that this new moon in Sagittarius, because it's in Jupiter's sign, because as the moon cycle unfolds, we'll have the Jupiter, the host of the moon cycle, squaring Saturn. The entire cycle is really about a really important shift in philosophy that's taking place. So, and again, I just say this because I know that some people will be like, I don't see it. a philosophical change, a change of how you see something, how you do something, how you believe, or how you understand something is subtle. Many people will have a hard time tracking it because it's not something that a lot of people pay attention to. The changes in attitude, disposition, the way we think, the way we understand things, a lot of the times they're happening very subtly and very gradually in a process that is coming because of life experiences that we have that are gradually leading us to shift the philosophy or paradigm. So you kind of have to pay attention on a subtler level to these things. Not uncommon, by the way, for the mutable signs to include kind of liminal or transitional spaces themselves, which, like if you look back in a year from now and you just consider November, December of 2024, what events were happening that ended up becoming important for an ongoing shift in how I view something or how I look at something. So we'll leave it there. This is the astrology for the week ahead. I hope that you find this useful. After I sign off, you can learn more about the rewards that are available when you donate and support the channel. Remember, we're trying to get to 1,937 backers by January 1st. Thank you so much to everyone who has already donated. You can find the link to the Kickstarter in the description of this video, in the comments section, or on the website, nightlightastrology.com. Thank you, and we'll see you again tomorrow. Bye. Hey everyone, thanks for sticking around. I'm going to tell you about the different rewards that we offer when you donate and support our channel in the year ahead. So you'll find a link to the Kickstarter in the description of this video, in the comments section of this video, as well as on our website, nightlightastrology.com. If you head over there, you'll see at the top of the page there is a menu item that says Kickstarter 2025. You can click on that and be taken over to the Kickstarter campaign page. So once you're there, if you scroll down on the right-hand side, you're going to see different pledge levels and different gifts and sales that we run as a way of saying thank you for your support. So among those, our most popular offering by far are the major discounts that we offer on our training programs. So if you are interested in studying astrology at Nightlight in 2025, whether you're a brand new student or a currently enrolled student who's thinking of taking one of our year 2, 3 horary programs, you're going to find that these are the best rates that we run on the entire year. And we do this as a way of both saying thank you and also of helping us raise funds to support the channel, our staff, and everything we do. So you'll see attend one Nightlight course there. That's about 50% off the total cost of the program and about $500 off the early bird rate. And then you'll scroll down and you'll see that if you bundle 2 courses together, the savings go way up. Bundle 3, they go up even more. I mean, the difference between the 2 and 3 class package is $200. So $200 more, you get 3 of our year-long programs. And if you get all the way to the 4 class pass, then you have all 4 years of our program. You can take them at any pace you like, renew them whenever you like. There's no timeline on when you use these class passes. And you will have all 4 years of content at about 75% off each of the programs individually when you get that bundle. So those are our best savings for sure. Highly recommend those. If you have any questions about our courses or programs, email us info@nightlightastrology.com or look at the website under the classes page, courses page. You'll find information about each of the individual courses we offer. And then if you scroll up, you're going to find some of our other programs that are greatly discounted. Ashley's Herbal Foundations apprenticeship course, which many people are interested in who come through our Moon Circle that Ashley and I lead each month. You scroll up, you're going to find our masterclass series for 2025, greatly discounted, as well as our Roots and Spheres Moon Circle, greatly discounted. There's hundreds of dollars of savings in each of those. So we really try to make sure that the Kickstarter acts as a good flash sale for all of our programs. You'll then find some really nice prices on previous archive talks, like our 2024 archive masterclass bundle, which is about 30 hours worth of content on specialized topics in astrology. You can see the topics listed in each of the bundles as you scroll through. 2023's masterclass bundle, huge savings on those and a lot of really great content. You'll see a few reading options as you continue to go from the bottom to the top. You'll see the 2025 year ahead mini reading. There's only 30 of these. These are individualized birth chart readings that I do looking at the most significant transit in your birth chart for 2025. I record those personally. You'll then see that there is an Ask 3 Horary Questions option where you can get 3 horary questions to redeem whenever you'd like within the year ahead. Those are kind of yes, no predictive questions. Will I get the job? Will we get together? Things like that. Then you'll see the Astrology for Complete Beginners course is also discounted through the Kickstarter. This is a great 10 hours worth of content for people who are brand new to astrology. So whether that's you or maybe a gift for somebody else. And then you're going to see some individual master classes that are greatly discounted from the past year. So all of 2024's masterclass series are the archives of which 8 to 10 hours each are on sale. And then scroll up a little bit more and you'll see one of our most popular offerings, which are the year ahead horoscope readings. These year ahead horoscope readings include 30 to 45 minutes of a breakdown of all the major transits of the year ahead for each sun and rising signs. You get all of them with this package, which is a great deal. It's like 10 hours worth of content, 8, 9, 10 hours, somewhere in there. I haven't finished recording all of them yet. So as of the time I'm recording this, I'm anticipating it'll land around 10 hours. But yeah, anyway, so you scroll up. You'll see those horoscope videos will all be delivered to you right around January 1st when the Kickstarter ends. Scroll up a little bit more, you'll find The Oracle Speaks, which is my book, and this is being released chapter by chapter. It is a book about the inner experience of learning to speak with oracles, and it is being released chapter by chapter in both text and audiobook form, so you can listen along to my new book. And that takes us up to the Astrology of 2025 video. This, for your donation at the $50 level, gives you an exclusive talk breaking down all of the major astrological transits of 2025. I look in depth at some of the biggest things happening in the year ahead and break them down in advance. And that's the only place I release that video or that take on the whole year ahead. Finally, at the very top, the most basic level of donation, you'll see the Astrology of 2025 calendar. This is a PDF calendar we design and make that allows you to track and move along with the astrology as the year unfolds. This is also great if you want to track what we're going to be talking about week by week on my channel. You'll get a glimpse at the biggest transits of each day and month and week. And that will give you some sense of where we're heading with our coverage of the astrology on the channel as the year unfolds. So again, any questions about any of the rewards that you see, email us info@nightlightastrology. Link is in the description, comments, or on the website, nightlightastrology.com. Help us get to 1,937 backers by January 1st. We deeply appreciate your contribution. We try to make sure we have some really special rewards to say thank you when you contribute. All right, take it easy. Bye.